Hi everyone, my name is Natalie. Today I wanted to do a Springathon related video that I'd really planned to do while the Springathon was still going on. Today is the day following the Springathon period, so it is Saturday the 15th of May, and the Springathon was going on in the first 2 weeks of the month. It is a nature writing readathon that I have been co-hosting with the two women of the Book Naturalist, Doris and Heidi, as well as Emma from A Couple Books and Julianne from The Blank Garden. I will link all of the hosts in the description box below. But today I wanted to share with you the tag that we created to go alongside the Springathon. Basically it's a scavenger hunt tag with a nature theme. So there is a list of prompts and you are basically asked to find books related to the prompts and to talk about them. So I have pre-selected my books because I think it would have taken me ages to do this while on camera. Also because I wanted to try to choose some books that I hadn't recently talked about. I will link Emma's version of this tag below. I will also tag some people and I will list them in the description box as well. So let's get into the prompts. So I have selected a mix of fiction and non-fiction, and that is partly because I wanted to talk about some books that I hadn't recently talked about, as I said. So the first prompt is a book about weather, and so I went with Strange Weather in Tokyo by Hiromi Kawakami, and this is a Japanese fiction book. It's a slice of life type book, and obviously the title refers to weather, and I don't think it necessarily talks about weather in a direct sense, but I very much associate this book with spring. I know that there is a cherry blossom picnic happening in the book, as well as some mushroom picking, which that scene has really stuck with me much more than I anticipated. I really like the gentleness of this book, and I know it's been going around the booktube community for a while, so highly recommend if you haven't read this one. The next prompt is bees or butterflies on the cover. So I could easily have chosen a non-fiction book with those topics, but I decided to go with a fiction book, and that is The Collector by John Fowles. As you can tell, there's a butterfly on the cover, and also butterflies are actually a topic in the book, in the sense that the protagonist of this book is a butterfly collector. And it's a really interesting portrayal of the butterfly collector as an obsessive person that he then applies to human interactions. So he ends up kidnapping a woman, and this book follows the kidnapping and the time that he spends with her as she is kept locked in a room. I think it's really interesting because the butterfly collecting as an obsessive thing, or as it's associated with an obsessive nature, the collector perspective, and it's something that comes up in the non-fiction on butterflies as well. So I remember really liking this one, and I read it I think before joining BookTube, so it's been a long time. The next prompt is a book about home, and for that I chose Cottage by Eva Meijer, and this is a Dutch book, I think, translated from the Dutch, if I remember correctly. The reason I chose this one for home was in part, of course, the mention of cottage in the title, which obviously associates with home, but also because this book follows a character who has spent most of her life working as a classical musician, and then she decides, I think in her 40s, to move to a small house in the countryside and spends all of her time observing birds from her house. So a lot of the action of sorts of this book takes place in her home as she's watching the birds and as she's making these bird observations. And I really enjoyed the bird observations specifically in this book, and it's also based on a real woman called Lynn Howard that I would really like to read her books as well, but they are very difficult to get a hold of. Either way, it's a very nice book, and I could have easily chosen this for the bird prompt, but I have another book in mind for that. The fourth prompt is a book about dirt or soil. There's a lot of things that could have worked for this, so I decided to go with a fungi related book because that is my jam, and I decided to specifically go with The Secret Life of Fungi Discoveries from a Hidden World by Aliya Whiteley. I think this is one of the less known books within the topic. I know that a lot of people have been reading Entangled Life recently, and for good reason. It's a fantastic book. But I think this one is more of an approachable and accessible book. It's more of an introduction to the topic of fungi and mushrooms, and touches on a lot of the interesting things related to this topic. So talks about poisons, talks about the different partnerships that fungi have with other organisms, both in terms of plant life and in terms of animal life. It talks about the role of fungi in ecosystems and using fungi materials for sustainable living. So there's a lot of different things that it's touched upon, and in a entertaining sort of way. So I think if you have a passing interest in fungi, it's a really good introduction to the topic. Most of the fungi are, of course, underneath the ground, so that is my connection with the dirt and soil. The fifth prompt is water on the cover. So if you've seen my Springathon TBR video, you probably already know that I've been really drawn to water-related books recently, and it hasn't just been recently, but it's been even stronger than usual. I chose a swimming-related book. It is Swell, a water biography by Geni Landreth. As you can tell, there's water on the cover. And this is a history of swimming, and specifically women swimming, and I think in general it talks about a lot of topics related to swimming. So it talks about swimwear and the development of that and how that has changed over time. The teaching of swimming lessons in school settings and in other settings. It talks about lidos and pools and outdoor swimming versus indoor swimming and all those things. But I think the biggest topic throughout the book is access to swimming, sort of the way that swimming has historically been something that women hasn't really been allowed to do, and when they have, that there's been a lot of restrictions on how they are allowed to do it. I think it's a really interesting women's history type book, so if you have any interest in swimming related nonfiction, then I would definitely suggest adding this one to your list. The sixth prompt is bird on the cover, so I chose The Lightkeepers by Geni. So honestly, I had a lot of options for both water, as you can see there's water on the cover as well, and bird, but I wanted to mention this one because I really enjoyed it, and I read it for the Springathon last year, and I haven't really stopped thinking about it since, so I'm kind of eager to reread this one. It's set on the Farallon Islands, and it is about a woman who is a nature photographer. She goes to the Farallon Islands to do her photography work, and on the island there's already a team of scientists, a very small team of scientists, and you follow the team, and as the nature photographer joins them, and the interactions between the members of the team, as well as a mystery that comes at play some ways into the book. Of course, the cover itself does have birds, so it's already fulfilling the prompt, but also the bird life is very, I think it adds to some of the gothic atmosphere of the book and the wildness of the place, and how it reflects the behavior of the people involved. So I'm not going to say anything more, but I think this is a fantastic book, and it's one of the most totally immersive books I've read in several years, so I think that is the reason it's really sticking out in my memory, and I wanted to take any opportunity really to recommend this book. If you are someone who's drawn to island settings, if you like fiction writing with nature themes, if you are interested in sort of a close character study and sort of the interaction with a small group of people, and with this tense with a tense kind of group dynamic, then this would absolutely be something I would recommend. Okay, so the seventh prompt is footprint on the cover. I am cheating slightly because I couldn't think of anything that would fit this this prompt, and it kind of works. So it is The Natural World of Winnie the Pooh, a walk through the forest that inspired The 100 Acre Woods by Kathryn Aalto. As you can tell, there's already a track thing related to the map on the cover, but also, let's see if I can find it. The first page of the book has footprints. So I'm gonna call that a success. This book is a coffee table book for people who are interested in the natural world of Winnie the Pooh. It's pretty self-explanatory. And the reason I have this one is because I love Winnie the Pooh with all of my heart. It's one of my favorite books. I love A. Milne's writing in general, and this one so it's talking about the actual flora and fauna and the specific places that inspired the different places in the books, as well as including a lot of E.H. Shepard illustrations and photography from the real places, like Pooh Sticks Bridge. It's kind of like a reference book, really. It's not really that well written, and you would probably be able to find the information in the book in very easily just searching on the internet. So the reason I have this one is mostly just to have all of the illustrations and the photography from the places. The 8th prompt is a book about travel or migration, and for that I chose, let's see, what is the title for this in English? Badger's Journey, I think, by Cecilia Heikkilä. This is a Swedish picture book about a badger, I think, that is settled on an island, and one day an animal lands on his island and asks for help, and so he goes on a journey with him. And it's just such a gentle story and really, really beautifully illustrated by Cecilia Heikkilä. She's also written the book, so both written and illustrated, and I really loved it. So I know that it has been translated into English and other languages as well, so I'm just going to show you some illustrations like this, and and I think it kind of captures the idea that you're never too old to go on an adventure. The 9th prompt is a really interesting one, I think. It is an author with nature in their surname. So I decided to go for another Swedish book, and that is The Bird Within Me Flies. I have to check this title out in English. It is Fågeln i mig flyger vart den vill in the Swedish original. The Bird and Me Flies is the English version of this book, and it's written by Sara Lundberg, also illustrated by her. Lundberg in English would be translated into Grove Mountain. So this is a fictionalized account of Berta Hansson, who was a Swedish artist in the early 20th century. So it's about her life growing up and becoming an artist, or becoming interested in art and then pursuing her dream. It's really beautiful, I think, and I've mentioned it before as well. I really liked the art in this one, and I think it captured the emotions in the book really well. And I just wanted to take a moment to appreciate and to share with you 2 Swedish books that have been translated into English, so you can also access them if you're interested. I figure they might be lesser well known, and I enjoy both immensely. The last prompt is Prehistoric Element on the cover. So I decided to go with a book I am currently reading, and that is Spirals in Time, The Secret Life and Curious Afterlife of Seashells by Helen Scales, and I figure mollusks have to count as prehistoric. It's both talking about mollusks and how they create the seashells themselves, but also talk about, for example, the way that seashells have been collected and used by humans in various ways, like used as money or in jewelry. It's a really interesting book so far, and I'm enjoying it. About, I think, almost halfway through. the book, so hopefully I will be able to talk about it in my May wrap up at the end of the month. So those are all of the books that I wanted to share with you for the Scavenger Hunt Springathon tag. As I said, I will link some people below. If you're interested in doing it, please do so. I would love to see the kind of books that you choose for these prompts. I hope if you joined in with the Springathon that you enjoyed your nature reading, and if you haven't, then I hope that you have found some inspiration either through the Instagram challenge that has been really fantastic to see, and or other TBRs and things on BookTube. I hope you're doing well and you're taking care of yourselves, and I will talk to you soon.